Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, 1989, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. The morning air quivers with anticipation, each breath a frosty promise of the wonders and catastrophes that await under a sky brushed with winter's first light. In the heart of suburban civility stands a house brimming with holiday hope, its windows still bare of glowing bulbs yet throbbing with the restless dreams of its master decorator. Inside, the patriarch awakens with the zeal of a general preparing his forces. His fortress of tinsel will be unmatched, his shining beacon a declaration that this year, more than any before, his family's celebration will rise to celestial heights. The scent of pine lingers from last year's evergreen, intermingling with the faint hum of his holiday playlist, rehearsing him for the moment when he can unfurl his vision to the world. This is the tale of a family bound by love and the maddening pursuit of perfection, each member poised on the edge of hilarity and heartbreak as they prepare to weather a Yuletide storm of their own making. Our hero dreams of synchronized Christmas lights cascading across eaves like waterfalls of fireflies, of a tree that brushes the ceiling and ornaments that jingle with the cheer of 1,000 carolers. Yet, he is blissfully unaware that destiny has loaded his sleigh with more surprises than silver bulbs. Cousins drift in from out of town with dubious trailers in tow, neighbors offer not goodwill but scrutiny, and the holiday spirit teeters between triumph and utter collapse. From the very first moment, we feel the electric thrill of possibility. He strides into the garage where crates of decorations stand like soldiers awaiting orders, his sleeves rolled high, eyes alight with fervor. The chestnut plastic sled that he's propped nearby for last year's half-hearted attempt now seems a relic beside the avalanche of garlands and wreaths he's amassed. He envisions the neighborhood gathering, mouths agape as his home glows like a winter lighthouse guiding weary travelers to warmth. Yet, lurking behind that vision lies the tender truth that every plan, no matter how elaborately conceived, carries the seed of glorious chaos. With every passing minute, the film unfolds like a narrative snowball gaining speed. A humble task, stringing lights, becomes an epic odyssey across rooftops and through gutters that groan under the weight of ambition. The camera follows his ladder ascents and near misses with the gutter spike, capturing the heartbeat of panic that sometimes spikes his confidence. Below, his wife holds children in tow, her equal parts support and skepticism flickering in her warm smile. She knows that the heart behind the hubbub beats with sincere joy, but she also has a keen eye for the brewing mishaps that come with any grand endeavor. As she offers him a thermos of hot cocoa, her gaze holds a silent prayer that the magic he seeks will not tip into mayhem. Midway through this first act, the plot branches off into delightful detours. The arrival of a cousin and his family, towing a battered RV and dragging along a menagerie of eccentricities, injects the story with jest and tension. They spill from their rig like overstuffed stockings, each greeting crashing through the doorstep with boisterous cheer and uncanny oblivion. The children of this makeshift clan rush in, scattering gifts and shouts among the carefully laid holiday maps, while the adults mingle in an impromptu kitchen choir of reheated casseroles and questionable eggnog. Their presence pulsates through every hallway, hauling the carefully crafted symphony of decorations toward an avalanche of laughter and spilled cranberry sauce. Amid these familial currents, the film teases the audience with foreshadowings. The grizzled uncle's raised eyebrow at the townhouse next door, the neighbor's iced-over smile that sets the stage for unspoken rivalry, the oblivious patriarch's triumphal blowtorch poised to ignite his homemade icicles. Each glance and gesture plants a seed of expectation, so that when the first set of bulbs pops in a fizz of sparks, the jolt of surprise dances through the viewers as though they, too, have been yanked from their warm chairs by an electric jolt of humor. The narrative's pulse quickens as holiday miracles collide with human foibles. A gentle snowfall drifts in the background as he revels in his empire of lights, the lens sweeping across the latticework of wires before him. But where beauty dawned, calamity soon follows. His trusty generator sputters, groans, and finally coughs its last note, leaving his handiwork suspended in darkness. The hush that descends carries the weight of comedy's greatest promise. That disaster, no matter how elaborate, can be the very conduit for deeper connection. His neighbors peer back from their frosty porches, a constellation of curious eyes, as he wrestles with cords and plugs, his triumph teetering on the brink of ignominious defeat. Yet, just as he reaches for the fuse box in a gesture of defiance, the lights flicker back to life with the electric thrill of a battlefield anthem. His fortress blazes anew, each bulb a testament to unwavering resolve. The camera lingers on his face, mouth agape in victorious glory, and then shifts its gaze outward to capture the ripples of awe on every front porch across the block. In that moment of collective wonder, the film's message crystallizes. Sometimes, it takes a near collapse to illuminate the genuine magic hidden in our best-laid plans. In the second act, the plot accelerates toward its most riotous heights. A wild chase through snow-laden backyards ensues, as the family dog bolts for freedom, dragging his owner through fresh powder and tinsel-laden bushes. Lights cascade in a glittering avalanche, ornaments shatter like starlight on pavement, and an inflatable Santa wobbles as though possessed by the holiday spirit. The patriarch clutches his ladder for dear life, his jaw set in determined humor, as he navigates the perilous curves of his creation's underbelly. Each misstep and nearfall is captured with comedic precision, the camera's quick cuts and whip pans magnifying the urgency until it feels like we, too, are scrambling for balance on his snowy roof. But this is not mere slapstick. It's an embodiment of the film's deeper theme, that love, like Christmas, thrives amid imperfection. As he emerges from the chaos, battered but beaming, it's not the perfectly aligned bulbs that define his success but the gathered family at his feet. Children sticky with cocoa, spouse radiant with relief, distant cousins transformed into willing accomplices in the grand holiday carnival. Their laughter rings out over the crackle of blown fuses, reminding us that the lights we hang around our homes pale beside the glow of shared moments. Yet the story still reserves its most unexpected twist. Just as he settles into the warmth of familial triumph, a final domino tilts. The long-awaited holiday bonus from his gruff boss arrives via the mail slot, only it bears an address misspelling so egregious that it lands on a stranger's doorstep. His dreams of lavish gifts vanish in a puff of bureaucratic mishap, leaving him staring at an empty envelope that once sung of possibilities. A hush of stunned disbelief falls, as though the clock itself has paused on Christmas Eve. But in that silence, a new truth emerges. Even when fortune's favor seems to slip through our cold fingers, the treasures we hold, the ones of laughter, forgiveness, and togetherness, remain firmly within our grasp. The camera pulls back to capture the tableau of faces gathered in the softly lit foyer, eyes wide with sympathetic disbelief, arms reaching out in shared embrace, the family's collective spirit undimmed by letters and lights. In the final flourish, the patriarch lifts a steaming mug of cider, its cinnamon steam curling in the air, and toasts the unexpected gift of an imperfect holiday. The lens closes in on their entwined hands, worthless paper forgotten but hearts forever intertwined, as the film's final chord swells in celebration of the glorious, unpredictable spirit that makes this season unforgettable. And so, as the credits prepare to roll, we leave this household of holiday dreamers not with the perfect vision of a postcard Christmas, but with the vibrant, messy, and utterly human portrait of joy found in the midst of chaos. For in every flicker of light, every runaway dog, every misspelled envelope, lies the true miracle. That family, laughter, and the willingness to embrace imperfection are the brightest decorations of all. The morning air carried a brittle promise of snow as Clark Griswold stepped into his garage, eyes alight with the festive fervor that only one day in December could ignite. Cardboard boxes marked Christmas decorations sat stacked like the vanguard of an army eager for orders, their flaps creased from years of opening and closing in hopeful anticipation. Clark cracked his knuckles, the crinkle of packing tape echoing like a starter's pistol. Today, he vowed, would be the year his holiday display eclipsed every suburban rival's, a beacon of Yuletide splendor that would shine so brightly it might guide wayward sleighs across state lines. With methodical precision, he unwrapped strings of multicolored bulbs, each tiny globe reflecting his determined grin. The first bulb snapped into the long green extension cord with a familiar click that had become as comforting as a Christmas carol. In his mind's eye, he pictured the ribbons of light snaking upward along the eaves, outlining every dormer and gutter in a festive halo. He'd mapped out the plan on graph paper, down to the last twist of a wire, and now he set to work, ladder balanced on the cold concrete floor, his cordless drill humming like an engine primed for takeoff. Inside, his wife Ellen surveyed his preparations with a smile both indulgent and knowing. She'd seen this look before, the spark in his eye that danced ahead of disaster, trailing tinsel and heartwarming ambition in his wake. She called up to him from the kitchen, where she was concocting her famous cinnamon-scented eggnog, froth rising like winter's first snow. "Be careful on the ladder, dear," she called, voice warm through the open garage door. "And don't forget to set the timer on the lights." Clark's thumbs up echoed as he tightened the final bulb into place, oblivious to how the plan would soon unravel in the most hilarious of ways. As afternoon light slanted across the Griswold lawn, neighbors began to emerge from their own homes, drawn by the promise of seasonal wonder. Mr. Shirley, their acerbic neighbor across the street, eyed Clark's contraption with a mixture of suspicion and envy. He leaned against the mailbox, arms folded tight beneath his parka, the corners of his mouth twitching in something like amusement. "Planning on blinding the neighborhood this year, Griswold?" he called. Clark waved enthusiastically, his voice brimming with festive counter-offense. "You bet, Todd. I'm going full Clark Griswold mode." Todd's silent nod was enough to let Clark know just how low the bar for neighborly concern had been set. Inside the house, the supporting cast of the Griswold clan prepared for the annual holiday feast. Teenage daughter Audrey flitted through the halls on her way to pick up her cousin, her cheeks brushed pink by the cold. She recounted to her brother Rusty the latest clubhouse gossip, who in their high school had gotten the perfect Christmas gift from his girlfriend, who had flunked finals and might spend vacation cramming. Rusty, armed with a high school boy's wry sense of humor, delivered a sarcastic quip that fell like a candy cane wrapper at her feet. Still, beneath his mockery, she recognized his anticipation for Aunt Bethany's arrival, a tradition of familial warmth and gentle chaos that bound them together every winter. Meanwhile, Clark received the phone call he had been waiting for all year. The notice from his boss, Mr. Shirley's counterpart at the office, promising a hefty year-end bonus. Clark lunged at the news with unbridled delight, picturing the checks ringing up in pay envelopes heavy with possibility. Now, he believed, he could afford that diamond bracelet for Ellen, that trip for the whole family, that centerpiece wreath that would frame their home in triumph. He jiggled the phone with laughter so contagious the operator on the line had to join in. This was the moment that would crown his efforts, he thought, the cherry atop the holiday Sunday of his best Christmas yet. But before the bonus check could materialize, Clark faced Operation Mash the Lights, the installation of half a mile of extension cords, the calibration of timers, the artful weaving of cords so that not a single conduit would mar the visual aesthetic. He recruited Rusty and Audrey as reluctant assistants, bribing them with hot chocolate and the promise of extra gifts if they'd hold the bulbs in place as he climbed the ladder. Their grumbling morphed into reluctant enthusiasm as they glimpsed the sheer spectacle unfolding on their roofline. String by string, light by light, the house began to glow against the gathering dusk. On the day of the grand light-up, the neighborhood gathered in hushed anticipation. Clark, resplendent in a red sweater emblazoned with a cartoonish reindeer, strolled to the front yard switchbox, hand trembling with both pride and anxiety. He flipped the switch, and a burst of color ignited the evening sky. Red, green, blue, and yellow bulbs spiraled outward, tracing every architectural detail with eye-searing brilliance. Gasps and cheers rose from the assembled onlookers, and for a fleeting moment Clark basked in the glory of undivided attention. His heart swelled. This was Christmas magic at its apex. Yet, in the blink of an eye, a pop and sizzle rolled through the air as the circuit overloaded. Light bulbs flickered, sparks danced along the gutter, and an ominous hum rose from the breaker box. Todd Shirley, arms crossed in smug satisfaction, stepped back as all the lights extinguished in a cataclysm of blown fuses. Clark's face fell, the glow from his sweater the only brightness left. He darted inside, muttering rapid-fire excuses to Ellen about needing to reset the circuit. Light bulbs flickered, sparks danced along the gutter, and an ominous hum rose from the breaker box. Todd Shirley, arms crossed in smug satisfaction, stepped back as all the lights extinguished in a cataclysm of blown fuses. Clark's face fell, the glow from his sweater the only brightness left. He darted inside, muttering rapid-fire excuses to Ellen about needing to reset the circuit, his holiday dreams snuffed by a moment's miscalculation. But Christmas chaos waits for no one. As he hustled back outdoors, a battered RV rumbled up the driveway. Cousin Eddie and his family had arrived, unannounced, their vehicle belching clouds of exhaust like a winter furnace. Eddie stepped out in his paint-splattered smock, ducking under a wobbly awning of extension cord. His wife, clad in a crocheted shawl and floral boots, tottered behind with a cooler of suspiciously pungent eggnog. They were an oddball troop, toting mismatched luggage and a yapping dog tethered to a fraying rope. Audrey's squeal of greeting echoed across the yard. Audrey was all too pleased at the prospect of hijinks and new anecdotes to bore her friends with at school. Inside, Ellen greeted them with weary kindness, masking her anxiety with a half-smile that showed her teeth. She ushered them to the guest bathroom, an avalanche of towels and toiletries waiting behind the door, hoping the arrival would be a brief interlude rather than a full-blown siege. Meanwhile, Clark wrestled with circuits and fuse boxes, testing breakers and slapping cables in a balletic frenzy. Sparks popped, hisses echoed, and finally, with a triumphant shout, the light sprang back to life, only to reveal that half the bulbs had turned heart-stopping shades of green and purple, the once synchronized display now a patchwork of gaudy dissonance. Outside, Rusty and Audrey watched the show with mixed feelings, daughter glee at the absurd vibrancy and son bemusement at the technical meltdown. Todd Shirley, sipping hot cocoa from his own recipe, lit a cigarette in slow satisfaction. Neighbors peered from windows draped in traditional white lights, as though Clark's kaleidoscope of bulbs were an unwelcome intrusion on the serenity of suburbia. Yet, in that fractured glow, the Griswold clan found an odd harmony. This was their light, warts and all, and it shone brighter for the stories left to be told. The evening marched on with invitations to neighborly gatherings and less invited quests for spare fuses. Clark, now armed with a ladder and a hardware store's worth of replacement bulbs, prepared to scale the roof once more. Todd's critique, tossed over the picket fence, stung with the precision of a dry martini, 1 part admonishment, 2 parts amusement. But Clark, fueled by stubborn hope, merely smiled, reminding himself that no display was truly a failure until the last bulb had dimmed. As dusk turned to night and snow began to drift in silent sheets, the Griswold household began the more intimate traditions of the season. Ellen's kitchen hummed with the clatter of pans and the comforting scent of roast turkey, while the children untangled ornaments and reminisced about Christmas catastrophes past. Cousin Eddie's son gleefully recounted a near disaster involving a runaway reindeer decoration, eliciting laughter that wove through the rooms like tinsel. In the living room, Clark surveyed the chaos, the tangle of cords, the half-lit windows, the stack of presents still unopened. His heart, though heavy with plans gone awry, swelled with gratitude for the ragtag family around him, proof that even amid gleaming dysfunction, love endures. Yet, on the horizon of this Yuletide tableau loomed deeper challenges. The letter from Clark's boss, the long-awaited bonus, still lingered unopened on the credenza, a promise suspended in possibility. The arrival of the black-clad Cousin Eddie had stirred the neighbors' curiosity into full-blown scrutiny. And above all, Clark's vision of the perfect Christmas flashed behind his eyes. The lights, the tree, the feast, the moment when every person he loved would stand, content and no longer overwhelmed by the trials of modern living. He tucked a stray red wire behind his ear, exhaled against the whirling snow outside, and took his first step back onto the winding path of holiday hope. In the quiet that followed, the house settled into a comforting glow of incandescent bulbs and soft conversation. The dog snoozed by the hearth, an edible misstep already forgiven. Clark's red sweater glowed with a festive cheer that refused to be dimmed by blown circuits or uninvited guests. As the camera of our imaginations pans from room to room, catching Ellen's gentle nod over crowded plates, Audrey's bright-eyed mirth at her cousin's antics, Rusty's knowing grin in the flicker of a candle, It becomes clear that the true magic of this holiday lies not in perfect execution but in the messy, luminous heartbeats of family together. And so, as snow blankets the lawn and the first act of this Christmas odyssey draws to a close, we gather with the Griswolds on that frosted porch, eager for the next unraveling of their seasonal dreams, and fully prepared to embrace each hilarious, heartwarming twist along the way. The sun rose pale and distant over the snow-drifted rooftops, as though it, too, were recovering from the night's revelry and fiascos. In the Griswold living room, the air shimmered with the lingering warmth of family bonds, cousins laughing over charred eggnog, children trading squeals in woolen boots, and Aunt Bethany nestled on a high ottoman, clutching her vintage jelly jars, eyes gleaming at every tumble of hilarity. Clark stood in the center of the room, surveying the scene with pride edged by exhaustion. His meticulously planned illumination spectacular might have fizzled into mismatched hues, and his bonus mailer remained conspicuously absent, but here, amid the kaleidoscope of laughter, he glimpsed the true heart of the season. No sooner had he allowed himself this moment of contentment than chaos stirred anew. A piteous mew drifted down from the frosted branches of the front yard oak, where a frantic feline, Aunt Bethany's prized pet, Snots, had found itself ensnared in the very strands of Christmas lights that Clark had wrestled to hook onto every available surface. The string glowed red and blue around the cat's fluffy tail, and it pawed at the air in comical desperation. Clark's face tightened into determined focus. Rescue operations were again to commence. He fetched a ladder, its rungs slick with frost, and Ellen held it steady from below while he ascended, trembling against the winter wind. Children huddled at the windows, breath fogging the glass as they watched their father tiptoe along the high limb like a circus artist. Finally, Clark stretched an arm through the lattice of lights, captured Snots by the scruff, and brought him down to safety, the cat yowling in indignation but unscathed. Below, the family erupted in cheers, yet Clark sensed the afternoon still held its wild cards. Inside, Cousin Eddie eyed the lingering warmth of the oven with opportunistic glee. He had arrived with an uncanny knack for collateral mishap. His RV, congested with leaky pipes, had flooded the Griswold basement laundry room overnight, transforming laundry baskets into floating islands of soapy denim. Inside, Cousin Eddie eyed the lingering warmth of the oven with opportunistic glee. He had arrived with an uncanny knack for collateral mishap. His RV, congested with leaky pipes, had flooded the Griswold basement laundry room overnight, transforming laundry baskets into floating islands of soapy denim. Now he slipped a casserole dish into the oven, its contents repurposed from last week's frozen surprise. The aroma of mystery meat filled the air just as a roar of thunder rolled across the sky, an ominous herald of trouble to come. Clark frowned at the heavens. The forecast had promised only gentle flurries, not a midwinter deluge. By dinner-time, the sky had darkened to charcoal, and rain fell in fierce sheets that battered windows and pooled in greater drifts than snow. The family gathered around the living-room hearth for survival rations, sandwiches and boxed cocoa, while Clark studied the weather report on television. A freak thaw had turned rooftops into slick torrents, sending icicles crashing like glass rain against foundations. Rusty and Audrey pressed their faces to the damp glass, mesmerized by the swirling sheets of gray, while Ellen rummaged for board games to stave off cabin fever. Clark's mind, however, was anchored to the missing envelope that promised his year-end bonus. Without it, his grand gestures, a diamond bracer for Ellen, tokens of gratitude for each child, would remain unfulfilled. His heart thumped with the anxiety of obligation. As the rain intensified, the power flickered twice, plunging the room into hurried darkness before cables settled their hum and lights blinked back to life. In that blackout, Clark's gaze drifted to the mantelpiece, where the unopened envelope lay beside the stockings. He snatched it with trembling fingers, tearing it open to find a single line of apology from his boss, explaining that the bonus had been misplaced in transit. No check, no promise, only bureaucratic regret. A hush fell. The children exchanged worried glances. Aunt Bethany furrowed her brow, and Ellen reached to squeeze Clark's hand, her pressure firm with unspoken solidarity. Clark squared his shoulders, a spark of determination flaring. "We'll find another way," he declared, voice low but resolute. "Christmas isn't about money, it's about us." Night deepened, and the threat of more rain remained. Clark rallied the troops for a rescue expedition. The basement flood had trapped Eddie's RV generator and must be cleared before it fried the house's main fuse box. Armed with buckets and mops, they descended into the laundry room, ankle-deep in sudsy water. Eddie offered dubious assistance. He claimed he'd once fixed his rig's toilet with bubblegum and duct tape, while Rusty and Audrey pumped water with pleading groans at every splash. Clark led the effort with barked instructions. "Form a line. Pass the buckets." The lights overhead flickered as the generator's motor sputtered and clanged, but by midnight they had extracted enough water to save both rig and fuse box. Soaked and shivering, they tramped back upstairs to find that the power held, a minor Christmas miracle in itself. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, revealing a winter wonderland. The deluge had crusted into glassy icicles, the streets glistened under a hard frost, and the Griswold lights, still ablaze in festive defiance, cast prismatic halos on the snowy lawn. Clark paused to admire his handiwork. Even with broken bulbs and blinking strings, the display now seemed more enchanting for its battered resilience. Neighbors emerged with mugs of coffee, offering thumbs up and compliments softened by grudging admiration. Todd Shirley ambled over in a down jacket, shook Clark's hand, and murmured, "I'll admit, this looks pretty spectacular in the morning light." Their brief truce was broken by the rumble of an RV engine. Cousin Eddie emerged from his rig looking more festive than ever, Christmas lights wrenched from his bumper forming a neon crown around his headlamp. In tow was a local tow truck. He'd accidentally parked his rig in a no-parking flood zone and been ticketed. The fine, amounting to half his intended Christmas fund, strapped his plans like a final punch to the gut. Yet Eddie shrugged and hoisted his battered hat. "I'll get it squared away, Clark," he said, voice oddly buoyant. "Family sticks together." Around them, fuel gauges and office memos faded into irrelevance. Inside, the family convened for the grand gift exchange. Clark distributed heirloom ornaments first, each one bearing a funny memory. The hand-painted globe that cracked in 1983, the star that wobbled perilously atop the tree in half-past midnight one year. Then came the wrapped packages, homemade scarves for Rusty, a dog-shaped nightlight for Audrey, and a tinderbox for Ellen. Clark's eyes gleamed as he handed her a small parcel, her name scrawled in looping script. She tore it open to find nothing but a key, the key to the brand-new station wagon Clark had discovered on a seasonal sale the night before, financed with Eddie's Carol Fund contributions and Clark's promise to rebuild the basement, eventually. Ellen's gasp of surprise filled the room with tears and laughter, dissolving any lingering shadow from lost bonuses and frostbitten plumbing. The crescendo approached as Uncle Lewis, long presumed dead, stumbled out of Eddie's RV wearing an ill-fitting Santa suit and carrying a thermos of illicitly spiked eggnog. Later, it was discovered that Uncle Lewis had wandered off a bus route, believing himself the real Santa Claus on a goodwill mission. His boisterous arrival, replete with hoots and marshmallow-laden cocoa, turned their modest living room into a boisterous workshop of Christmas lore. Clark crowned him honorary holiday spirit officer, and with that gesture, the family sealed the season's redemption. Even as the afternoon sun began its retreat behind skeletal trees, the Griswold crew knew they had navigated every twist the holiday could throw at them. From sky-high icicle rescues to basement flooding, from missing bonuses to surprise Santas. They had endured the manic ballet of light displays, the marvel of mismatched bulbs, and the comedic genius of a cast of outlaws refashioned as kin. In the final scene, they gathered outside beneath the blazing canopy of lights, now humming with renewed vigor, while a chorus of carolers, drawn by the spectacle, joined in Silent Night. Their breath misted in the cold air as they raised hands and voices together, an imperfect choir singing with unwavering joy. Clark looked around at each face, Ellen's relieved smile, Rusty's more boyish grin, Audrey's bright eyes, Cousin Eddie's crooked salute, Aunt Bethany's triumphant glare, and felt a bliss that no bonus check could purchase. The camera of your memory pans out one last time, capturing the home alight against the dusky sky, the laughter of a family that had navigated real and ridiculous storms alike, and the echoing truth that every twisted bulb and miscalculated plan had led them here, to a Christmas neither perfect nor predictable, but painted in the most vivid hues of love. And as the final notes of carols drift into silence, the story closes on the simple conviction that true holiday magic lies not in flawless execution but in the glorious, chaotic embrace of those we hold dear. From the moment Clark Griswold swings open the garage door, there is about him a kinetic energy that seems to set the very air alight. He is the kind of man who hears the first whisper of winter and feels in his bones the rumble of possibility. His broad shoulders fill the flannel shirt as though it were armor against mediocrity, and his eager smile carries the honest conviction of a man who believes every year can be better than the last. He is endlessly optimistic, to the point of naivete, convinced that modest suburban lawns can be transformed into Yuletide spectacles rivaling Rockefeller Center. Beneath the twinkle of his eye, however, lies a vulnerability. He measures his worth by his ability to deliver joy. His relentless pursuit of the perfect holiday display reveals a man who equates success with the happiness of those he loves, and whose deepest fear is falling short of their expectations. Beside him stands Ellen, a woman whose warmth is the hearth to Clark's fevered decorating blitz. She watches her husband with a blend of affection and gentle amusement, as though she alone sees the fine line he treads between spirited determination and madness. She offers him taps of reason, reminders to mind the ladder, to set the timer, to breathe, but she never dampens his zeal. In her soft smile and the practiced way she corrals spilled tinsel, there is a pragmatism born of long years spent smoothing the edges of Clark's grand designs. She understands that love sometimes requires stepping back so someone else can feel they've soared. And yet, when the lights flicker and the carolers draw near, she rejoices in his triumphs as though they were her own, illuminating her devotion in every quiet cheer and supportive embrace. Their children, Rusty and Audrey, orbit their parents' holiday orbits with teenage exasperation and flickers of genuine delight. Rusty wears his wry humor like a shield, offering sarcastic commentary on each ill-fated extension cord or blown fuse, yet he helps his father climb the icy ladder with sturdy hands and rolling eyes that soften at every small victory. His resilience reveals a boy learning the art of loyalty, finding in the ritual of suffering through Clark's mishaps a strange comfort. Audrey, with her social antennae tuned to the rhythms of high school hierarchies, is at once eager to mortify her parents and eager to preserve their holiday traditions. Under her exasperation lies deep-seated affection, evident in the way she tucks stray pine needles back into the tree's branches and cradles the ornaments passed down through generations like fragile heirlooms. Then there is Cousin Eddie, who bursts into the Griswold world with the soft roar of an RV engine and the scent of something between day-old diner hash and untamed optimism. He owns his mismatched attire, paint-spattered overalls, a cap that has seen better decades, and seems to parade his loving eccentricity with pride. Eddie's carefree heart belies a man unencumbered by societal pressures. He teaches by example that generosity is measured in the sharing of a warm laugh, a shared meal, or a genuinely half-hearted attempt at courtesy. When he pours eggnog from a rusted thermos or offers Clark a helping hand tangled in hoses, he reveals himself to be a kind of seasonal spirit, chaotic, delightful, and wholly without pretension. Uncle Lewis, gruff and unruffled, turns his cameo into a lesson on the unexpected gifts of hardship. He wanders in like a self-styled Scrooge, yet beneath that solemn countenance beats the heart of someone who has tasted disappointment enough times to appreciate the rare sweetness of family reunion. In his gravelly voice and his awkward hugs, he embodies the truth that joy and pain often share the same porch. His sudden, boisterous appearance reminds the Griswolds, and us, that no holiday gathering is complete without a twist of the unpredictable. Aunt Bethany, slight of frame and staunch of spirit, perches on a wicker chair clutching her famous jelly, her wide eyes alight with the thrill of familial ritual. She embodies the eccentric tradition keeper, the one who insists on crumbling her powdered, "Justice, or is it donuts?" onto every lampshade and who responds to the banter of younger generations with a gentle, bemused cackle. In her bewildered delight at each turn of chaos, she reveals the magic of innocence preserved. She does not ask why the lights went out, she marvels that they went out at all. Todd Shirley, the neighbor whose carol of disapproval drips with condescension, casts a shadow of rivalry across the Griswold's aspirations. His crisp parka and measured sneer mark him as the suburban sentinel against excess. Yet in his grudging nod of approval at the film's climax, he reveals that even the most steadfast critics can be moved by an indomitable spirit. In Todd, we see the unwelcome truth that perfection can breed resentment, and that sometimes the most meaningful transformation is in the hearts hardened by comparison. Together, these characters orbit the Griswold hearth like planets in a hilariously out-of-tune solar system. They drive and tether the story's themes of ambition, gratitude, and the unexpected beauty of imperfection. Clark's unyielding quest for the perfect holiday illuminates the folly of chasing an illusion, yet it also underscores the nobility of striving for joy. Ellen's pragmatic support reveals the power of steadfast love to anchor even the most tempestuous dreams. Rusty and Audrey show us that growing up does not require losing one's capacity for festive wonder. Cousin Eddie reminds us that generosity costs nothing, and Uncle Lewis whispers that even those who wander far too long can find their way home. Aunt Bethany's eccentric devotion to tradition preserves innocence in a cynical world, while Todd Shirley's begrudging respect hints that the boundaries we erect can be softened by genuine warmth. In examining them all, the film holds up a mirror to each of us. We see in Clark our own longing to create a flawless moment, to guard against disappointment by wrangling every detail. In Ellen, we see the patient love that loves without condition. In Rusty and Audrey, we see the conflicting desires for both independence and connection. In Eddie and Uncle Lewis, we encounter the freedom and redemption that flow from letting go of pretension. In Aunt Bethany, we find the delight that endures when we embrace the whimsical. And in Todd Shirley, we face the cautionary note that envy often masks our own unspoken yearnings. The Griswolds' journey through laughter, blunders, and tender reconciliations becomes, in its sweep of human emotion, a testament to the messy glory of togetherness. Each character, by way of their quirks and flaws, shapes Clark's odyssey, not toward a manufactured perfection, but toward the raw, glittering truth that home is not where all lights shine brightest, but where hearts glow in unison. In the end, as the final carol fades and the last bulbs flicker on the frosted eaves, we understand that this ragtag family, with all its clamor and calamity, has lit more than a display of holiday cheer. They have kindled a warmth that keeps burning long after the wreaths are packed away, a warmth that reminds us, no matter how many strands of lights we hang, the truest glow rises from those we love. On a crisp December morning, long before the first notes of the holiday carol drifted through the Warner Brothers backlit, a convoy of trucks rumbled onto the soundstage lot. Inside them were the seeds of seasonal chaos. Thousands of light bulbs, cathedral-sized Christmas trees still swaddled in netting, and the battered shell of an RV that had once served as a prop for a forgotten Western. It was here, amid the hum of generators and the hiss of pneumatic drills, that a seemingly ordinary suburban home would be reborn as the epicenter of Yuletide mayhem. The production team joked that they were mounting a battle of man versus holiday, and as they unpacked hundreds of strands of colored lights, enough to stretch from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara if laid end to end, they could not have imagined the bizarre legends that would spring to life long after the cameras stopped rolling. It began with the lights themselves. The art department had ordered 25,000 multicolored bulbs, each one hand-strung onto cable by a battalion of grips working around the clock. These lights were rated for outdoor use, but when the production's chief electrician tested the circuit, the house's breaker box groaned under the demand. In a stroke of creative engineering, the team installed 4 separate generators hidden beneath the lawn, feeding power to the rooftop display through a labyrinth of underground conduit. Neighbors later claimed they heard the generator's soft thrum from 2 blocks away, mistaking it for a new industrial plant. But the real oddity came on the night of the big switch-on. As the lights blinked into life, a single strand refused to obey, pulsing in Morse-like fashion. The crew left the pulsating bulb in place, calling it their holiday beacon, and fans now delight in spotting its staccato glow in the background of the final frame, a whimsical reminder that perfection sometimes lies in imperfection. Inside the house, the Christmas tree presented its own set of challenges. The set decorator had procured a majestic Douglas fir standing 13 feet tall, its branches laden with pine cones the size of walnuts. Yet when the tree crew hoisted it into the living room, the beam above the fireplace groaned ominously, as though protesting the weight of holiday cheer. The carpenters installed a hidden joist to bear the burden, whispering that they were reinforcing the very fabric of Christmas spirit. But the strangest wrinkle appeared the next morning. Overnight frost had condensed on the tree's needles, coating them in a glittering sheen of ice. The continuity supervisor was baffled until the special effects team confessed to running a low-pressure mist through hidden nozzles, intended for the snowfall sequences, but forgetting to seal them. The unintended icy tableau became part of the film's lore, and eagle-eyed viewers still pause at the scene to admire the crystalline sparkle of their holiday hero's arboreal centerpiece. Of all the family members who gathered under that roof, Cousin Eddie's arrival remains the stuff of legend. His RV had been salvaged from a junkyard and customized for maximum comedic effect. Sagging awnings, a misaligned door that groaned ominously, and a staggering propane tank that hung at an impossible angle. On the day of filming, the RV refused to start, prompting a last-minute performance by the on-set mechanic, a wiry fellow named Gus who claimed he could resurrect engines with a single turn of his wrench. As the camera rolled, Gus climbed beneath the RV, and the whole lot held its breath. A sudden backfire sent snow machines spitting artificial flakes into the air and drenched the crew in a harmless but eerie cold mist. When the RV burst to life, ejecting a waft of exhaust that looked like a ghostly specter across the lot lights, the director decided it was too perfect to reshoot. The scene remained, an accidental triumph of mechanical exorcism. Meanwhile, the interior sets offered their own quirks. The kitchen, where Aunt Bethany's infamous jelly donuts first appeared, was a fully functional studio kitchen operated by a real chef. To achieve the perfect glaze on the donuts, the chef insisted on sifting fresh sugar every 30 minutes, but the sugars stored on set began to pill up with moisture, forming little mounds that resembled miniature snowdrifts. The chef's solution was to toast the sugar lightly, a technique that imparted the donuts with a subtle caramel note. When the cast bit into those pastries, their eyes lit up at the unexpected hint of toasty sweetness. Rumor has it that a few crew members snuck back into the kitchen after wrap to taste the Christmas donut, igniting friendly debates over whose recipe it most resembled. The scene where the family gathers in the living room for dinner featured an array of props that quietly defied convention. The blinking replacement fuse that Clark clutches in one hand was actually a novelty store toy, incapable of conducting any real electricity. During rehearsals, the prop master discovered that it emitted a faint buzzing noise, so he discreetly installed a tiny speaker that played a looped recording of static interference. This meant that every time Clark triumphantly held it aloft, viewers heard the crackle of a radio tuned between stations, an auditory inside joke that most audiences never realized originated from a plastic bauble rather than a genuine electrical component. Actors, of course, bring their own off-screen stories to the table. Chevy Chase's pratfalls required dozens of takes, each carefully choreographed to minimize real injury. Yet during one late-night take, the leg of the coffee table, which had been reinforced for safety, snapped under Chevy's landing, sending a shower of wood chips across the set. Instead of calling cut, he broke character for a split second, surveyed the debris with faux solemnity, and quipped, "Well, there goes the living room furniture budget." That moment of spontaneous humor found its way into the blooper reel and stands as a testament to the unpredictable physics of comedic timing. Beyond props and pratfalls, the production courted other curious incidents. A soundstage adjacent to the set was concurrently filming a nature documentary featuring owls. At dusk, when the actors prepared to record lines about holiday warmth, an owl's distinctive hoot drifted through the wall, sending everyone into peals of surprise. The sound mixers, rather than editing it out, wove it into the scene's ambient track, giving the moment a subtly magical undertone. Later, the composer referenced the owl's call in the score, mimicking its rhythm in a lone flute trill that appears whenever the family hears a knock at the door, an auditory wink at the night's woodland interloper. One of the most persistent mysteries concerns a single shot in the backyard. As Clark wrestles with a tangled string of lights, the camera captures a shadow moving across the snow behind him, a silhouette too large to be a person and too precise to be a mere reflection. For years, crew members whispered about a mischievous spirit haunting the lot, perhaps the ghost of a long-ago holiday clown who once performed for studio executives. The mystery deepened when the individual frames revealed no apparent human source. No foot traffic, no reflection in windows, no glimpse of a cameraman. To this day, viewers replay that moment, hoping to spot the phantom figure, a hidden cameo that remains one of the film's most enduring enigmas. Animal wranglers, too, contributed their own slice of strangeness. Snots the dog, the pet who runs riot through the Griswolds' Christmas card portrait, was played by a scruffy rescue mutt named Baxter. Baxter had a penchant for vanishing between takes, slipping out through an unlatched studio door and embarking on solo expeditions across the Warner lot. On one famous occasion, he led a parade of stagehands into the commissary, where he happily raided unattended trays of lax before being coaxed back with a string of truffle-scented treats. The actors, hearing of his exploits, began leaving their lunches on elevated platforms, where Baxter could only watch with dignified longing, another testament to the set's capacity for unscripted comedy. Perhaps the oddest bit of trivia involves the film's final blackout sequence. When the Griswold home sits darkened after yet another holiday mishap, the entire block of homes along the set goes dark in one fell swoop. Rather than reroute power for a single house, the electrical department arranged a timed shutdown of the surrounding sound stages and exterior practice houses, creating a sweeping corridor of darkness. The effect was so effective that the nearby neighborhood reported a brief outage, prompting one irate homeowner to call the studio security line complaining about the Christmas lights theft. Security dispatched an apologetic guard who explained it was for the sake of cinema, and by the time power returned, the mystery of the neighborhood blackout had become another little-told holiday yarn. In the weeks following the premiere, as audiences flocked to see a family's holiday dreams gleam and crash in comedic fashion, the strangest facts about the production began to circulate like tinsel on the wind. Fans wrote in asking for the secret to the blinking beacon, the origin of the mysterious shadow, and the recipe for Aunt Bethany's donuts. Commentators speculated that the RV's malfunctioning exhaust was intentional, a metaphor for the unpredictability of family gatherings. Others believed that the owl's hoot was a coded message, a playful nod to the idea that nature itself joins in holiday revelry when given half a chance. Today, the film stands as not only a testament to the joys and pitfalls of Christmas ambition, but also as a chronicle of the delightful serendipities that can only occur when a production dares to dream big. Its legacy lives on in the blinking bulbs that grace driveways every December and in the whispered legends of phantoms and owls that haunt the periphery of our holiday memories. And whenever a single bulb pulses mysteriously in the distance, or a dog sneaks into the buffet, or the lights blink out just before the big reveal, we smile, knowing that somewhere in the mix of ambition and improvisation, havoc and heart, the strangest facts about this holiday caper continue to glow, flicker, and delight. A hush falls over the Griswold driveway as the first flicker of multicolored bulbs trembles into life, and in that instant the film scores its opening chord, ambition tinged with delightful folly. From a critical standpoint, the grand illumination sequence is more than the kickoff to comedy. It is a masterstroke of visual metaphor. By staging the family's holiday hopes on a suburban facade, the film holds up a mirror to the universal longing for perfection against a backdrop of inherent chaos. Clark's triumphant grin as the first string of lights sparkles forth is matched by the audience's knowing tension. We sense that this fragile glow teeters on the brink of outage. When the lights flicker and die, plunging the block into darkness, the moment transcends mere slapstick. It punctures the myth of flawless merriment and reminds us that even our most earnest dreams can short-circuit. This event resonated with viewers in 1989, long before social media's curated perfection, because it spoke to the anxieties at the heart of any celebration, the fear that our best intentions might fizzle in the face of reality. As Clark wrestles with the stubborn fuse box, the film pivots to a tighter, more intimate aesthetic. The camera moves closer, catching the twitch of his brow and the tightening of his jaw. Critically, this shift underscores a central theme, the transformation of communal spectacle into personal trial. The jovial outdoor panorama collapses into the flickering half-lit basement, where battered circuit breakers hiss like mechanical beasts. In that confined space, the story strips away its glossy veneer to reveal the grit beneath holiday gloss. Audiences felt that contraction viscerally, recalling their own interior struggles when celebrations stumbled. The film's ability to wring emotion from a utilitarian fuse panel, rendered by careful sound design and nimble close-ups, cemented its reputation for finding drama in domestic minutiae. Later, the unannounced arrival of Cousin Eddie in his dented RV collides with the Griswold nucleus like a festive wrecking ball. From a critical perspective, Eddie functions as the film's agent of anarchic truth. His discordant presence appends Clark's meticulously plotted tableau, revealing the moral that holiday joy cannot be engineered alone. When Eddie careens into the driveway, the camera tilts ever so slightly, reflecting the world's sudden lurch off-kilter. His boorish grin and shotgun wedding anecdote serve as comedic catalysts, but they also force the family, and the audience, to confront the messy inclusivity of kinship. Critics have lauded this moment for its structural boldness. Rather than arriving as a mere cameo, Eddie's intrusion becomes the narrative linchpin that liberates Clark from his self-imposed tyranny of perfection. Inside the turreted living room, Aunt Bethany's powdered face and reverent jelly jars evoke a bric-a-brac vision of tradition caught in amber. When she shatters the priceless heirloom icicle, that crystalline status symbol, her reaction is less one of repentance than of delighted bewilderment. Critically, this act appends the film's commentary on consumerist holiday excess. The audience, primed to gasp at broken glass, instead finds humor and empathy in her sincere amazement that any object could crack under its own preciousness. It is a poignant reminder that material fetishism yields to the absurd grace of human error. In forcing us to laugh at the shattering of an artifact, the film underscores its theme, that life's most treasured ornaments are fragile precisely because they are touched by flawed hands. The Christmas Eve dinner scene doubles as a social microcosm, bringing neighbors, cousins, and in-laws into a churning soup of aspiration and envy. Clark's failed attempts at a fancy roast, its exterior charred to an ashen parody, mirror the half-cooked expectations of suburban status. Critics have noted how the film uses food as an index of class and belonging. The Griswold's charred bird contrasts sharply with the gleaming centerpieces glimpsed through Todd Shirley's trimmed hedges next door. When Clark laments that even the bird looked happy before the oven's betrayal, the line resonates as a schema of dashed hope. Yet in the laughter that follows, we see the film's emotional alchemy. Pity transmutes into communal resilience. The shared feast of turkey sandwich leftovers becomes a radical act of togetherness, blessing the imperfect communion of voices raised in jovial toasts. Amid the chaos, the power outage at the height of dinner plunges the block into darkness, leaving only Clark's flashlight beam and the chorus of tinny battery-powered carolers. Far from mere comic relief, this blackout crystallizes the film's critique of fragile infrastructures, both electrical and societal. Critics have pointed out that the sudden blackness shines a spotlight on human connection. Deprived of spectacle, the Griswolds and their neighbors huddle under blankets, trading stories by candlelight. The absence of light becomes a space for honest vulnerability, and in this sequence the film dramatizes the emotional truth that community shines brightest when we share our darkness as well as our dazzle. Perhaps the most audacious narrative twist arrives with the arrival of Uncle Lewis, who, as most thought deceased, ushered the film into its mythic third act. His unexpected return, in full Santa regalia and confusion, sends shockwaves through the family's fragile equilibrium. Revealed to have staged his own disappearance years ago, Uncle Lewis embodies the redemptive power of second chances. Critics have celebrated this beat for its thematic resonance. By reintroducing a man presumed lost, the film invites reflection on absence and forgiveness. The emotional core of his reunion with Clark, a hesitant fist bump that blossoms into a brotherly embrace, becomes the film's emotional crescendo, affirming its thesis that even the most abrupt intrusions can heal old wounds. The climactic moment, as Claudia's shattered tree toppled through the stained glass window, plays out as a symphony of mayhem. Here, the film's deft choreography of cascading glass, whipping Christmas ribbon, and flailing limbs choreographs disaster into a dance of catharsis. Cinematically, the director employs wide, high-angle shots to capture the homespun opera before cutting to tight close-ups of Clark's molten realization that his dreams, and his living room, lie in splinters. Rather than eliciting horror, the tableau produces uproarious laughter, a testament to the film's skillful inversion of tragedy into triumph. Critical analysis reveals this sequence as the narrative fulcrum, the moment when Clark surrenders control and embraces the intrinsic absurdity of his holiday quest. In the aftermath of that glorious wreckage, the film tenderly draws its thematic threads together. As the camera lingers on the family trudging through the snow to repair the carnage, it frames their collective endeavor as a celebrated act of renewal. Ellen's pragmatic embrace of Clark in mittened hands captures the essential emotional resonance, that love persists in the aftermath of chaos. The film concludes not with pristine perfection, but with hand-applied adhesive and replacement ornaments dotting the broken fur. This resolution offers audiences a blueprint for resilience. That acceptance of imperfection, rather than its erasure, yields genuine joy. Upon release, these pivotal events guaranteed the movie's reception as more than a madcap comedy. Critics hailed its incisive portrayal of suburban aspiration and the myth of holiday perfection. Reviewers in the New York Times noted its bracing honesty, praising how it interrogates our seasonal rituals with laughter as sharp as icicles. The Wall Street Journal commended its heart-in-the-right-place chaos, observing that the film's ability to mine emotion from disaster elevated it above mere parody. Audiences responded in kind. Its box office run boasted not only strong opening weekend crowds, but also a remarkable leg of sustained attendance. Its appeal lay in its blend of uproarious set pieces and resonant emotional truth, an alchemy that critics and viewers alike embraced. Over the decades, the film's climactic disasters have become cultural touchstones. The blinking light sequence is reenacted by homeowners dreaming of spectacular yard displays, while Uncle Lewis's boozy Santa antics echo in countless social media memes. The image of a snow-sodden Griswold clan hauling ladders and extension cords into the blackened lot resonates each winter as a parable of communal creativity. Over the decades, the film's climactic disasters have become cultural touchstones. The blinking light sequence is reenacted by homeowners dreaming of spectacular yard displays, while Uncle Lewis's boozy Santa antics echo in countless social media memes. The image of a snow-sodden Griswold clan hauling ladders and extension cords into the blackened lot resonates each winter as a parable of communal creativity. Its themes of family, failure, and forgiveness have inspired scholarly essays on holiday film archetypes and pop culture retrospectives on the subgenre of festive comedies. In academic circles, the blackout dinner scene is studied as a case study in cinematic turning points. How visual depletion of spectacle births a deeper, more intimate spectacle of human connection. The emotional resonance of these key events endures not because they conform to holiday clichés, but because they subvert them. Each disaster unfolds not as a moralistic lesson, but as an invitation to embrace the joyous humanity in our shared foibles. The film's critical legacy lies in its fearless leap into mess and its unshakable belief that laughter, like light, shines most brightly against a backdrop of shadow. And as the credits roll each year in theaters and living rooms worldwide, we carry forward the film's hopeful incantation, that even when our best-laid plans explode spectacularly, we can still gather, rebuild, and find in the wreckage the raw material for new traditions. Thus, the analysis of these significant events, from the inaugural light show blackout to the climactic tree collapse, reveals a film whose impact and reception were forged in the union of meticulously crafted comedy and profound emotional insight. Its thematic core, perfection's folly, the resilience of family, and the beauty of imperfection, continues to resonate, reminding us that the most unforgettable holiday stories are those in which our brightest lights emerge from the deepest storms. Before winter's first chill had truly settled over the Warner Brothers lot, a team of prop masters and set designers converged on Stage 16, the cavernous soundstage destined to become the iconic Griswold living room. Under the harsh glare of work lights, carpenters erected walls that would soon bear the casualties of a dozen comedic catastrophes. The shattered glass from the Christmas tree's untimely collapse, scorch marks from Clark's ill-fated rooftop light installation, and the dented panel where Cousin Eddie's RV once rested in ill-fitting grandeur. Every nail and plaster seam was placed with an eye for both durability and tearaway convenience, ensuring that each explosion of holiday havoc could be reset in time for the next take. The set decorator, a wiry woman named Marge Perkins, likened her task to crafting a Rube Goldberg device. Each carefully chosen tchotchke, from the deer antler bookends to the porcelain squirrel figurine, had to survive multiple near misses yet remain poised to scatter at the cue of a well-aimed punchline. One of the crew's earliest challenges emerged from the decision to string 25,000 outdoor lights across the facade, an undertaking as ambitious as it was precarious. The electrical team, led by veteran gaffer Joe Wrench Caruso, rigged 4 diesel generators hidden beneath faux snowbanks on the front lawn. On the night of the grand illumination, Caruso recalls, the generators hummed in seamless harmony, but an unexpected frost had frozen one intake valve. In the nick of time, a young electrician named Lisa shimmed the valve open with a zip tie and a good-natured curse, saving the show, and earning the respect of every grip within earshot. Later, the art department celebrated Lisa's ingenuity by awarding her a single still-blinking bulb from the display, which hangs today on her home's Christmas tree as both a memento and a silent salute to that frosty evening's triumph. Inside, the kitchen where Aunt Bethany served her famous powdered sugar donuts was built on a movable platform, complete with a functional oven and hot stovetop that blew safe puffs of steam. The script demanded multiple takes of Aunt Bethany's candy-coated collapse onto the counter, powder dusting the ceiling in a faux snow flurry. To achieve that perfect burst of sugar, props master Miguel Hernandez devised a custom rig, a hidden air cannon loaded with confectioner's sugar, timed to spray the moment Ruth Gordon hit her mark. The first test shot clogged the rig with damp sugar, leaving Hernandez hunched over in a cloud of white, blinking as though he'd just survived a snowstorm. But on filming day, the cannon roared to life with surgical precision, dusting Gordon in a halo of sweetness that would become one of the film's most endearing visual signatures. Chevy Chase's physical comedy, his pratfalls, his befuddled stances atop the icy ladder, demanded careful choreography. Chase insisted on performing each stunt himself, though the production safety coordinator, a no-nonsense ex-stuntman named Bill Ramsey, rigged hidden harnesses and breakaway ladder sections to cushion any missteps. During one rehearsal, Chase gave Bill a run for his money by misjudging a step and landing squarely on a padded section. Instead of the expected grimace, Chevy burst into laughter, then quipped, "Next time don't tell me there's padding." From that day on, Bill dressed the ladder in flaming red tape as a diabolical lure, a practical joke that reminded everyone the comedy was real but the injuries had to stay imaginary. The suburban street that doubled for Clark's neighborhood was a carefully constructed exterior backlit, complete with 5 identical house facades, each featuring its own electrical switches to control the Griswold light display. Coordinating the timing of explosions, first the lights popping in unison, then the blackout moments later, required a team of 20 electricians working in concert. They set up a custom DMX control board, repurposing nightclub lighting technology to send cues that traveled through the facade's hidden wiring. On the night shoot, the controller at stage 17 tapped a sequence that brought the block to life, the hum of anticipation crackling across the set as extras peered from behind frosty windows. When the first bulbs lit in a cascade of jewel tones, the collective cheer was so loud it registered on the sound crew's decibel meters as unexpectedly festive. Cousin Eddie's RV, the comedic linchpin of the film, was assembled from 2 salvage yard campers welded together by a dedicated team of prop fabricators. Underneath its garish paint job lurked a fully functional Ford chassis, which the on-set mechanic Gus O'Malley kept running on a mix of premium unleaded and Kansas fried chicken grease, a legend that trade magazines circulated as proof of Hollywood's improvisational spirit. During one dramatic reverse shot, the RV's power steering fluid leaked into the on-stage rain trough, creating a makeshift slip and slide that sent Eddie's on-screen wife careening into a stack of plastic lawn chairs. Though the spill was unplanned, director Jeremiah Chechik loved the moment's spontaneity so much he retained it in the final cut. Production designer David Plath faced a different beast with the Griswold mansion's interior decor. It needed to feel lived in yet resilient enough to survive dozens of take-after-take interior collisions. He chose earth-tone drapes and scuffed oak trim to mask scuffs and scratches, while the plush carpeting, sourced from a high-end mall showroom. Though the spill was unplanned, director Jeremiah Chechik loved the moment's spontaneity so much he retained it in the final cut. Production designer David Plath faced a different beast with the Griswold mansion's interior decor. It needed to feel lived in yet resilient enough to survive dozens of take-after-take interior collisions. He chose earth-tone drapes and scuffed oak trim to mask scuffs and scratches, while the plush carpeting, sourced from a high-end mall showroom, was treated with industrial stain guard to repel chocolate syrup, fake blood, and an incidental eggnog spill that nearly shut down the kitchen set during a marathon 18-hour shoot. Cast and crew later recalled hearing a collective gasp when a bowl of gravy went flying during the Thanksgiving flashback, an unscripted moment so rich in chaos that it earned a standing ovation in the rushes room. The sound department, headed by Oscar winner Mike Bliss, wrestled with the film's signature carolers soundtrack. He wanted the singing to feel authentic but not amateurish, so he assembled a local community choir to record in the cavernous Davis Scobie Hall on the UCLA campus. They welcomed the group in for an evening session, coaxing lush harmonies from singers more accustomed to Sunday services than seasonal comedies. When the choir finished Silent Night, Bliss layered a subtle echo and then mixed it down into the film's soundscapes to give the effect of chorus voices wafting through neighborhood trees. A stray door closing off stage was left in the final mix as a nod to the set's real-world imperfections, a hidden flourish only true audiophiles catch. Editor Raja Gosnell, working at Lorimar's El Segundo facility, faced the daunting task of weaving dozens of comedic beats into a coherent 2-hour narrative. His approach was essentially musical. He mapped out Clark's emotional arc and matched it to visual motifs. First the twirling of light bulbs, then the shattering of tinsel garlands, and finally the warm embrace of a makeshift feast. Gosnell's keen sense of timing led him to extend certain gags, a slight hesitation before a punchline, a pregnant pause after a pratfall, creating a rhythm that critics later described as perfectly syncopated. He once joked in an interview that he treated Reel 1 like a symphony's overture, setting themes that would recur in playful variations throughout the film's 3 acts. In the final weeks of production, a fierce Santa Ana windstorm ripped through the lot, sending prefab palm trees toppling like dominoes and halting exterior shoots. The producers considered relocating, but Chevy Chase persuaded them to seize the tempest's kinetic power for a climactic sequence outside the Griswold house. They drenched the set in artificial snow, cranked up industrial fans to hurricane force, and filmed Elliot Gould's character stumbling through the blinding flurry toward the glowing windows. That footage, panoramic and wild, made the trailer's opening montage, cementing the film's reputation as the only Christmas movie to ever blow you away quite literally. When principal photography wrapped, the cast and crew gathered in the Warner Brothers commissary for a makeshift soup and nutmeg party. Ellen's recipe had become legendary by that point. Chevy Chase, donning a Santa hat for the first of many in his career, recounted his personal favorite mishaps, from encountering an uncharted tarp in the attic set that sent him crashing through a restored poinsettia display to the time a bird nested in a practical wreath on the front door set, mistaking the fake berries for a safe roost. These anecdotes spilled across the table like whipped cream on hot cocoa, each one a testament to the production's belief that laughter thrived best when combined with a dash of chaos. Decades later, these behind-the-scenes tales have become part of the film's enduring legend. Fans visiting the Warner Brothers studio tour often ask guides to point out Stage 16, where the Griswold living room once stood. A single Santa hat left pinned to a display board commemorates the hat Chevy tossed when he nailed a pratfall in one unbroken take. Collectors clamor for the blinking beacon bulb, now preserved in a museum case, rumored to carry the same flicker that once signaled the Griswold family's triumph over suburban darkness. And every holiday season, electricians whisper that no Christmas lights installation is truly complete without a hidden zip-tied valve and a forgotten sugar cannon waiting to bring a little extra sparkle. Thus, within the loops of extension cord and the crunch of studio snow, lies the film's beating heart, a tribute not just to holiday cheer, but to the ingenuity, camaraderie, and sheer resilience of the artists who turned a simple suburban comedy into a seasonal legend. Each mishap, each snowstorm-born moment of magic, each spilled eggnog venerates the collaborative spirit that made the film more than a movie. It became a perennial rite of passage for anyone who has ever dared to string one more bulb, brave one more ladder, and believe that despite the mayhem, the true light of Christmas glows brightest in the sparks of shared creation. Frost clung to the eaves of the Griswold home like a promise of white wonder as the camera drifted in a lazy arc above the sleeping suburban street. From this lofty vantage, the neighborhood seemed an endless stretch of pitched rooftops, each one dusted in glittering snow, and each one a potential stage for Clark's grand Christmas ambitions. The sky lay heavy with winter's hush, a slovely gray that foreshadowed both the serenity and the mayhem about to unfold. When the lens settled on the broad front lawn, once manicured, now pocked with tire tracks from Eddie's RV, it carried with it the film's central tension, the ordinary veneer of suburbia against the swirling vortex of holiday delirium. Tracking forward, the camera slipped through the front door as if it, too, were a curious guest stepping into the Griswold living room for the very first time. Warm lamplight pooled on faded carpet and honeyed oak trim, lending the space a lived-in intimacy. The wallpaper's small floral print, softened by years of family life, whispered stories of lazy afternoons and birthday parties past, only to be upended by the imposing 13-foot fir standing defiantly in the corner. Each needle and suspended ornament glowed with narrative weight, illuminated in clothes UPS that captured the tree's stoic grace before its inevitable toppling. Here, the setting acted as both sanctuary and potential disaster zone, a vessel for holiday cheer on the verge of glorious collapse. The exterior scenes hinged on contrasts of scale and weather. A sweeping crane shot followed Clark's descent from the roof, where he had spent hours wrestling with strings of bulbs, into a courtyard frosted in glittering snow. The giant canvas of white ground gave the blades of grass the appearance of an endless marshmallow field, a deceptively serene stage for pratfalls and power tool mishaps. Wide lenses framed the whole house in its wintry isolation, the glow of its promise stark against the silent rows of neighboring homes. In twilight shots, bluish dusk crept around windows decorated with blinking lights, evoking the comfort of hearth and home even as it invited us to watch a comedy of errors unfold behind those panes. Night shoots transformed the neighborhood into a cathedral of light and shadow. The art department rigged hundreds of practical bulbs along gutters and eaves, each one wired to blink or flash in choreographed imperfection. Cinematographer Peter Lyons captured these nighttime tableaus with a soft diffusion filter, wrapping each string in a halo that suggested magic bleeding from the very fabric of the set. When all the lights synchronized in one glorious eruption, then promptly shorted out, the sudden blackout felt as dramatic as any blackout in a war movie. The visual coup lay in the juxtaposition. Festive abundance snuffed in an instant, leaving only the silhouettes of shocked neighbors and the soft breath of children pressed against window panes. Inside, the church basement where Clark's boss hosted the Griswold clan was a study in institutional drabness elevated to comedic heights. Fluorescent tubes hummed above plastic folding chairs and battered formica tables groaning under the weight of lukewarm punch and wilted fruitcake. The camera spun slowly around Clark's primly pressed suit and cap, contrasting his festive fervor with the setting's cheerless banquet hall. Mid-shots lingered on his stiff posture, while wide angles captured the shrinking circle of co-workers forced to endure his prattle. Here the setting itself became a comedic device, an unintentional homily on the perils of workplace holiday parties. Snowy exteriors returned in the climax, the RV convening of Cousin Eddie's motley crew in the Griswold driveway. A low-angle shot made the RV loom like a metallic behemoth, its rust-stained sides and sagging awning cutting an incongruous silhouette against the snowy sprawl. The production design team, mindful of the RV's symbolic weight, carved into its chipped bumper the word "home," though in an ironic scrawl that only heightened its outsider status. When Eddie flung open the door in an entrance both grand and graceless, the camera jumped to his giddy expression, the stark white snow framing him like a spotlight in a natural amphitheater. Back inside the living room, the kitchen's warm glow beckoned as sanctuary from the snowstorm brewing outside. High-key lighting bathed the tile floors and stainless steel appliances in a near-cinematic daylight, underscoring the care Ellen poured into her holiday feast. When Aunt Bethany's donut fiasco erupted, the camera cut from medium shots of the pastries to wide shots of the kitchen's bemused occupants, capturing the donuts powder in a slow-motion flurry that turned sugar into visual poetry. The mise-en scene of spatulas clattering and cabinets swinging open became an ode to domestic anarchy. Throughout the film, color played a symphonic role. The Griswolds' living room boasted a palette of warm ambers and deep reds, the traditional holiday hues, while outside, the snowscape reflected cool blues and grays. This dance of warm and cold made every moment feel alive, a hug in the chill, or a breeze in the embrace of family. In pivotal scenes, slight shifts in saturation conveyed emotional undercurrents. The color drained slightly as Clark's spirits dipped under Todd Shirley's or sneers, then popped back to vibrant life when Aunt Bethany cackled or Rusty delivered his wry punchlines. The film's blocking further entwined characters with setting. Early shots placed Clark in the center, dwarfed by the ceiling-high tree, then slowly tracked him forward as he asserted control, first over the fuse box, then the dinner table. During dinner, actors formed a semicircle around Clark, their half-lit faces swinging between approbation and disbelief as the turkey sputtered to a charred crisp. The camera's movement, a gentle push-in during Clark's climactic meltdown, visualized his collapsing kingdom, the walls of the cozy home closing in as his holiday utopia unraveled. Seasonal atmospheres, gentle snowfall, sudden blizzards, mild thaws, played their parts, choreographed by a team of special effects technicians. Artificial snow, delivered in fuzzy pellets by hidden cannons, settled in the yard and on the RV's roof, catching the backlight and transforming the exterior into a fairy tale diorama. For the climactic tree crash, plumbers flooded the basement set with water, painting the concrete floor in a sheen that caught overhead spotlights. The result was a cathedral of mayhem, water reflecting the bright Christmas lights in fractured patterns, the fallen tree limbs silhouetted in shimmering pools. Camera lenses and angles distilled moments of pure emotion. A handheld lens followed Clark across the icy front lawn, its sway mimicking the stumbles that punctuate his ambition. Conversely, the town meeting's long lens compressed the neighbors into a quivering panel, their expressions muted but collectively disapproving. In the final moments, a slow, ascending crane shot lifted above the snow-packed driveway, capturing the full arc of the Griswold chaos in one glorious frame. A blinking house, an RV haloed in steam, neighbors gathered in grudging solidarity, and the frozen stars overhead. In one final flourish of visual storytelling, the credit sequence stitched together panoramic shots of the neighborhood in daytime splendor, each home twinkling with Clark's handiwork now restored, or at least made more charming by its imperfections. Sprinklers glinted like dew on painted evergreens, and a trailing camera panned across children building snowmen under blinking eaves. The camera lingered on the RV's misaligned door, the final testament to holiday resilience, before climbing into the sky one last time, letting the audience carry away both the magic and the mess of a Christmas well, if untraditionally, lived. Dawn's first light crept into the Warner Brothers backlit long before the call time, painting pale gold ribbons across the dusty pavement. In that hush before chaos, the sound stages stood silent and still, as if holding their breath for the day's brew of tinsel, wires, and comedic calamity. Few realized that by the end of the evening, the lot would echo with laughter and the clang of fallen props, each moment a testament to the gleeful mayhem that transformed ordinary set work into holiday legend. It all began when the grip department returned from lunch to find the front facade of the Griswold home missing, literally gone. Director Jeremiah Chechik, upon hearing the distress call, found them sheepishly gathered around a flatbed truck in the next lot. Crane operators had inadvertently loaded the facade onto the wrong transporter, mistaking its decorative shutters for a display piece bound for another stage. The crew scrambled to reroute the truck, pedaling tricycles and riding forklifts in a mad dash to intercept the runaway scenery. By the time they wrestled the house back into place, the sun was dipping low. The crew scrambled to reroute the truck, pedaling tricycles and riding forklifts in a mad dash to intercept the runaway scenery. By the time they wrestled the house back into place, the sun was dipping low, and the cast had already broken for wardrobe, telling Chechik that nothing would surprise them now. That riotous recovery set the tone. Here, the line between accident and scripted slapstick would blur until no one remembered which was which. Inside the living room set, production designer David Plath presided over a forest of lumber and wiring like a benevolent general. He had insisted on painting every nail head gold to disguise minute flaws, resulting in rows of shimmering dots that caught the lens in close-ups. The carpenters cursed him affectionately as they sanded and resanded, but when the time came to film the holiday card photo, the gold flecks transformed the walls into a glittering cathedral of Christmas spirit. The DP, Chris Knorr, leaned in and said, Honestly, Davis, it's like shooting in a snow globe, forever cementing that obsessive detail as a cherished victory for the set. Wardrobe faced its own festive gauntlet. Costume designer Christine Bach arrived days early to tailor Clark's signature reindeer sweater, but the pattern she wove by hand, tiny antlers and holly, proved irresistible to the local mill cat, who had taken residence in the trailer. Each evening, Bach would find swatches unspooled and yarn chewed into perfect circles. When she finally tracked the feline down, she discovered it nesting in the sleeve of the sweater. The crew nicknamed it Rudolph, and Bach, determined not to be outdone, integrated the kitten's playful claw marks into the design, dubbing it a feature rather than a flaw. That whimsical compromise became a proud anecdote on set, symbolizing the creative alchemy that thrives in constraint. The kitchen set, where Aunt Bethany's grandson nearly sank into a molded pan of fake mashed potatoes, was the domain of props wizard Miguel Hernandez. His crowning achievement was rigging the jelly donut cannon that dusted Ruth Gordon's wig in a cloud of confectionery snow. Hernandez spent evenings tinkering with pressure valves and sugar density, only to discover that humidity made the sugar congeal like lead. The night before shooting, he commandeered a borrowed hairdryer and a stockpile of desiccant packets, dehydrating the sugar into an almost crystalline powder. When the cannon blasted at Gordon's mark, the sugar erupted in a perfect halo, and the crew erupted in applause. That midnight engineering marathon became the stuff of legend, a reminder that innovation often emerges under the cover of darkness. Guest star Chevy Chase approached his physical comedy with case study thoroughness. He insisted on rehearsing his pratfalls repeatedly, examining slow-motion playback on handheld monitors and comparing them to classic slapstick stars. His dedication earned him both admiration and groans from the stunt coordinators, who had to rebuild the padded sections of the kitchen floor after each tumble. One afternoon, Chase attempted a particularly ambitious fall that sent a custom ice dispenser flying into the chandelier. The chandelier, a priceless antique rented at great expense, swayed alarmingly, prompting gasps on set. Incredibly, the glass pieces held firm. Chase dusted himself off, looked up at the chandelier, and quipped, "I think it approves," earning a roar of relief and laughter that rippled through every department. The cast found camaraderie in those unscripted moments. On a long night shoot, Ellen Hamilton Latzen, playing Ellen Griswold, discovered that behind her chair, the stand-in for Aunt Bethany had left a stash of candy canes. Latzen plucked one and offered it to Chevy Chase between takes. Soon, the gesture spread like wildfire, and by noon the next day, the trailer corridors were lined with mismatched candy canes taped to doors, each inscribed with a laughing note. The prop master later confessed that he had to order 12 dozen more canes to keep pace with the cast's sugary solidarity. That spontaneous sweet exchange forged a spirit of unity that carried the production through its tightest schedule squeezes. Weather, too, became a cast member. A freak gust of Santa Ana wind descended on the backlit during the outdoor light installation scenes, sending tarps skyward and rolling fog machines scattering mist in gusts. Rather than battle the storm, Chechik seized it for dramatic effect, ordering the extras to react as though an Arctic blizzard had descended upon the troupe. When the footage debuted, the swirling snow and howling wind gave the light ceremony sequence an epic grandeur that exceeded the planned choreography. Critics later singled out the sequence as a standout moment, unaware that Mother Nature had improvised the most spectacular special effect. Language barriers added their own comic flair. The neighborhood extras, largely local hires from nearby Culver City, spoke in a blend of Spanish and English that required daily phrase-of-the-day sessions led by the assistant director. "Lights on" became "Luzes arriba," and "Great job" translated to "Buen trabajo." Laughter punctuated every rehearsal as the extras tried to deliver their lines in rapid-fire Spanglish. By final shoot, their hearty "Gracias, Señor Griswold," in response to Clark's bravos, echoed like a festive chorus, a subtle multicultural anthem woven into the suburban tapestry. Amid these light-hearted triumphs lay more daunting challenges. The climactic tree collision sequence demanded the tree collapse perfectly through a faux stained glass window without injuring a single actor or shattering any real glass. Stunt coordinator Rob Mills devised a rig of breakaway window panels and mechanical hinges that would guide the tree's descent. On shoot day, the crew's collective heart thumped as the tree toppled, only to miss its mark by inches. Without hesitation, Mills called reset, and the carpenters reassembled the window at half the original angle, a process that took mere minutes. When they ran the shot again, the tree crashed flawlessly, sending a cascade of glassless shards across the living room floor. The teamwork, speed, and calm under pressure turned a potential disaster into a dazzling coup of technical precision. Sound editor Sarah Jensen faced her own quagmire, capturing the iconic holiday cheer amidst the cacophony of generators, wind machines, and the rumble of the RV. She rigged lavalier mics on extras, capturing their breathless gasps during the blackout dinner, and positioned a parabolic mic to catch Aunt Bethany's whispered "Merry Christmas" above the din of a collapsing tree. In post, Jensen wove these disparate tracks with Danny Elfman's score, layering in the hum of the generators as a musical undertone that speaks to the electric heartbeat of Clark's ambition. The resulting soundscape won her praise for crafting an audio tapestry that felt both authentic and enchantingly orchestrated. Editor Raja Gosnell, working at Lorimar's editing bays, found in the dailies a treasure trove of off-script gold. Chevy Chase's improvised year's savings down the drain riff, Rusty's deadpan refusal to climb the ladder, and a bit in which Eddie's drink spills onto the Christmas card table, prompting uproar. Gosnell cut these moments into the final reels not as bloopers but as integral beats, moments of personality that grounded the farcical spectacle in genuine human reaction. When pressed on his approach, Gosnell explained that in comedy, authenticity is the supreme currency. "If it feels real, it will hit real," he said, "so I let the actor's humanity shine through the chaos." A final flourish came in the marketing department, where a contest invited fans to submit photos of their own holiday light disasters. The winning entry, a house wrapped in so many blinking strands that the power line sparked carnival-like fireworks, received a cameo mention in the end credits. Seeing the community's own triumphs and tribulations projected onto the silver screen completed the circle, turning the film from a scripted comedy into a shared holiday ritual. When the last piece of tinsel was struck from the set and the backlit returned to its quiet off-season lull, the cast and crew gathered for one final feast in the commissary. They dined on comfort food, mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans almondine, while sharing memories of overturned trailers, missing scripts, and the time Chevy nearly froze mid-take in the cold snap. Laughter echoed beneath the fluorescent lights, a festive echo of their collective ordeal. As they toasted to another season survived, someone raised an empty eggnog glass and declared, "Here's to the Griswolds, may we always find merriment in the mess." And in that moment, every hand met every hand in a circle of true holiday spirit. The real magic spun not from lights or snow but from the laughter and fellowship that had carried them through one of the most beloved Christmas comedies of all time. The winter sky wore a steel-blue promise as Clark Griswold stepped onto the porch, his breath rising in pearly plumes while the world below lay swaddled in snow. In that hushed moment, the film plants its first seed, the yearning for a holiday more luminous than memory, a yearning that speaks to something universal, something in each of us that reaches for perfection even as we brace for life's little catastrophes. The porch itself, festooned with half-hung garland and a lone red bough, becomes a threshold between the ordinariness of everyday existence and the grandeur of family tradition. In that liminal space, we glimpse the film's central theme, the pursuit of an ideal, of a Christmas so flawless it might rival the gloss of any store-bought holiday scene, yet always tinged with the tremor of impending farce. Inside the house, every ornament and bauble seems to tremble with possibility. The 13-foot tree towers like a cathedral spire, its branches heavy with glittering glass, candles poised to flicker in unison. In the tree's upward reach, we see Clark's own elevated hopes, the broad sweep of his ambitions made flesh in bough and bauble. Yet when that very tree topples in a crash of broken glass and snapped lights, the symbolism cuts to the heart of the story, that our loftiest dreams, if pursued without caution or humility, can shatter in an instant. The crash is not mere slapstick but a parable. Beauty, like glass, enchants only until it breaks, and in its scattered shards we find the seeds of a deeper understanding. Throughout the film, the Griswold's house stands as a living totem of aspiration and vulnerability. Its facade, bathed in the riotous glow of 25,000 bulbs, becomes a gauntlet thrown down before the entire neighborhood. Clark's extravaganza is less a display of holiday cheer than a declaration of self-worth. Behold what I can achieve. Yet every blown fuse, every sizzle of overtaxed circuits, becomes a counter-argument to that pride. The lights flicker not only as a mechanical failure but as a moral reminder that grand gestures, when untethered from genuine intention, risk overloading both circuits and relationships. It is in the stutters of electricity that the film locates its pulse, the hum of humanity vibrating beneath the superficial dazzle. In the kitchen, Ellen's quiet competence emerges as the film's moral compass. She navigates the steam and clatter of pots with a calm that belies the swirling chaos of lit-up roofs and shrieking bells. Her warm casseroles and patient guidance become symbols of the sustaining power of care. When she refills Clark's cocoa cup without a word, it is as though she breathes life into the moments between his heroic but hair-brained feats. The kitchen table, scarred by years of family meals, stands in contrast to the pristine perfection of Clark's planned light show. Here, amid mashed potatoes and charred roast, the film insists on the nourishing truth that love is not manufactured, but stirred gently, dish by dish, shared bite by bite. Cousin Eddie's creaky RV, its sagging awning and mismatched lights, embodies another crucial theme, that goodwill is often found in the most ragged of packages. When his home on wheels rolls into the spotless driveway like a humble Trojan horse, it brings a wind of unpredictable generosity. The battered vehicle symbolizes the beauty of welcome unaccompanied by polish, an invitation to extend kindness even when it arrives in a leaky form. Eddie's offbeat cheer, his sack of questionable eggnog, and his dog's exuberant leaps underscore the film's message that family extends far beyond curated guest lists. In his boisterous presence, we learn that belonging is less about fitting a mold than about embracing the messiness of those we love. The bare neighborhood trees, skeletal sentinels under the moon, become silent witnesses to Clark's escalating mania. At twilight, his silhouette appears against the darkened sky, a lone cowboy poised over a lariat of lights, reminding us of the mythic allure of Christmas as a quest. Yet each flicker of failure reminds us that holiday glory is not found in heroic conquest but in the fellowship of surviving the elements together. When the lens pans across the frozen lawn to show neighbors huddled in frosty cardigans, their breath misting in the cold, the film illuminates its subversive joy, that shared adversity binds hearts more firmly than orchestrated spectacles. The recurring motif of power, its presence, its absence, its unpredictable flicker, pervades the narrative as both literal and figurative current. The grand illumination, the office Christmas tree, the kitchen appliances, the fuses, and the summons to the mayor's office each pulse with electrical charge. When the Griswold power grid fails, plunging the block into darkness, the film orchestrates a blackout not only of voltage but of pretension. In the hush that follows, characters drop their scripted roles and reveal their truest selves. The blackout becomes a baptism of candor. No flickering bulbs, no forced pageantry, only the raw warmth of human connection, lit by firelight and candle glow. Aunt Bethany's sugary demise, her powdered donuts cascading like snowflakes, plays as more than mere comic relief. The confectioner's sugar, dusting her hair and facial ruffles, becomes a blizzard of nostalgia, evoking the sweetness and passage of time. It is a fleeting reminder that tradition can both comfort and confound, smothering the living in the weight of expectations. Yet Bethany's delighted expression, even as she trembles under her confectionery coat, embodies the film's gentle insistence that joy often arrives unbidden, its magic found in innocent surprise rather than meticulous design. The holiday feast itself, strewn with mashed potatoes, gravy boats, and half-melted ice sculptures, becomes a stage for both abundance and absurdity. When the family sits down to the turkey that looks happy until it is burned to an ashen crown, the film weaves humor with heartbreak. The charred bird, pinned on the plate like a Sisyphusian boulder, symbolizes the burden of expectation. In the shared laughter and sympathetic grimaces, we find the film's emotional core. That celebration is not measured by perfect execution but by the resilience of spirits undimmed by calamity. Uncle Lewis's unexpected return catalyzes the film's deep dive into redemption and forgiveness. Assumed lost to tragedy, his boozy Santa suit-clad re-emergence becomes a symbol of returning grace. In the tight embrace between brothers, the camera dwells on eyes brimming with unshed tears, underscoring the film's faith in the possibility of second acts. Lewis's ragged presence, his knobby cane, his reminiscing slur, reminds us that our personal histories are tapestries woven with loss and reconciliation. His restoration to the Griswold fold becomes a parable of holiday healing, that even the most distant hearts can find their way home when given the gift of unguarded hospitality. Finally, the sinuous garland that Clark drapes across the mantel, meandering down the banister and winding into a Christmas bedtime saga, embodies the film's grandest thesis, that life's true decorations are the threads of shared experience. Each loop of ribbon marks a triumph claimed or a failure survived, a joke told or a tear wiped away. The garland's gentle curl mirrors the family's journey, from hopeful ascent to fiery collapse and back to enduring unity. In the film's closing shot, as the camera pulls back to reveal the entire clan huddled under one oversized coat against the cold night, the garland's whispering presence reminds us that love, like holiday lights, glows brightest when strung together across the dark. Through these symbols, the ramshackle RV, the fragile towering tree, the tempest of blown fuses, the powdered sugar snowfall, the charred turkey, and the redemptive homecoming, the story unfurls a tapestry of themes both timeless and timely. It interrogates our collective obsession with idealized celebrations, unveiling the folly and beauty of chasing an elusive perfection. It exalts the messy reality of kinship, celebrating generosity in its most eccentric forms. Above all, it conjures the steadfast truth that the spirit of Christmas survives not in flawless execution, but in the laughter we forge amid the chaos, the embraces that mend the mess, and the shared light of hearts aglow in the darkest December dawn. Before dawn's first frost had thawed on the Warner Brothers lot, the grip and lighting crews began their silent ballet, setting steel dollies and scaffolding ladders against the looming outline of the Griswold house. Under the pale glow of sunrise, cinematographer Thomas Del Ruth circled with his camera team, testing lens filters to coax warmth from the cold December air. He chose a soft diffusion filter for interior scenes, one that wrapped faces in a gentle glow, turning ordinary lines into earnest expressions of hope and frustration alike. Each bulb Clark wrestled onto the gutter would later catch in the diffusion's halo, giving the holiday lights an almost otherworldly sheen. Outside, Del Ruth swapped to a hard-edge lens that captured icicles and snowdrifts with crystalline clarity, every flake etched in sharp relief to contrast the family's fuzzy domestic moments within. As the morning deepened, the art department unfurled crates of decorations like troves of buried treasure. Production designer David Plath had insisted on practical foliage, fresh garlands and real holly berries, so that when the camera pulled in tight on Aunt Bethany's trembling hands, the scent of pine seemed to drift from the screen. The smell of evergreen lingered through takes, lending authenticity no studio scent could match. In the kitchen, set decorator Marge Perkins rigged hidden steam pipes to billow gossamer clouds of holiday warmth behind Ellen's gleaming countertops, marrying sight and scent in a subliminal symphony that anchored every close-up in lived-in reality. The set's electrical wiring was a feat of careful choreography. 25,000 multicolored bulbs stretched across the facade, each string labeled with vials of colored tape, marching toward the climactic blackout. Gaffer Joe Wrench Caruso and his team ran concealed cables beneath faux snowbanks that hid silent generators. On filming nights, snow machines pumped finely milled ice crystals into the air, turning the studio backlit into a veritable winter wonderland. Yet these flakes threatened to clog generator vents, so the crew installed heat lamps among the air intakes, small tungsten bulbs that hummed quietly, melting any drifting snow before it could stall the show. The effect was seamless. Bulbs flickered to life against a backdrop of drifting flakes, the glow reflecting in the actor's eyes like promise itself. Camera movement played a starring role in conveying Clark's shifting fortunes. For the opening shot, Del Ruth mounted a Steadicam on a railroad track that swooped from the street up to the front door, gliding past neighbor homes draped in their own modest lights. The path mirrored Clark's own journey from mundane routine into holiday mania. Inside, a carefully choreographed crane shot lifted from Clark's feet, bundled in thermal socks, up the staircase to his triumphant grin as he surveyed the living room. That reveal was a deliberate homage to grand holiday melodramas, scaled down to suburban scale but echoing with the same sense of wonder. In contrast, slapstick moments, Clark's misstep on the ladder, Cousin Eddie's hasty entry, were captured with handheld cameras, the slight shake lending each pratfall a fresh, urgent comedic kick.